2026 is not just another year, it's your turning point. If you choose to treat it that way, ask yourself this: are you going to let another year pass you by, or are you finally ready to take control? This isn't about hype. This is about real life, real effort, real change. If you've been tired of starting over, if you've been setting goals but not following through, if you've been feeling like you could be doing more but haven't known where to start, this is the moment that separates who you were from who you're about to become. This audiobook isn't filled with empty motivation. It's packed with real, clear, step-by-step actions you can take every day. You'll learn how to take responsibility, create structure, stay focused, and become consistent even when life gets uncomfortable. 2026 is your year, not because it's different, but because you will be. Now press play. Let's begin your best year yet. Chapter 1. Declare 2026 your personal turning point. I want you to hear this clearly and feel it deeply, because moments like this do not come often in a person's life. A year is not just a number on a calendar. A year is a decision waiting to be made. And 2026 is standing in front of you right now, asking one simple question: are you going to live the same way again, or are you finally going to change the direction of your life? Most people do not fail because they are weak. They fail because they never draw a line. They drift from one year to the next, hoping things will somehow improve. Hope is not a strategy. Waiting is not a plan. And wishing will never replace action. If you want 2026 to be your year, then it must become your turning point. A turning point is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet and serious. It happens the moment you decide that the way you have been living no longer works for you. A personal turning point begins with honesty. Real honesty. The kind where you stop defending your habits and stop blaming other people. The kind where you look at your life and say, this is where I am, and this is not where I want to stay. That moment can feel heavy. You might feel regret. You might feel frustration. You might even feel anger toward yourself. That is not weakness. That is awareness. Awareness is the starting point of all change. I have met thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you this with certainty. People do not change when life is easy. They change when staying the same becomes too painful. If you are tired of broken promises to yourself, then good. If you are tired of starting over every year, then good. If you are tired of knowing you can do more and still holding back, then good. That discomfort is not your enemy. It is the signal that you are ready. Declaring 2026 as your personal turning point does not mean everything suddenly becomes perfect. It means you stop lying to yourself. It means you stop negotiating with your future. It means you stop saying someday and start saying now. A declaration is powerful because it gives your mind a clear direction. The human mind follows decisions. It wanders when there are none. Right now, your life is producing results. Every habit you have, every choice you make, every excuse you repeat is giving you the life you are living. If you want different results, you must change the cause, not later. Not when you feel ready. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings change. Decisions stay. A turning point begins the day you stop asking for motivation and start asking for discipline. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is personal. Discipline says, I will do what needs to be done even when I do not feel like it. That is how lives change, not in giant moves, but in daily decisions stacked together. Think about this carefully. If you keep living the same way for another year, where will you be? Same stress, same doubts, same unfinished goals, same regret quietly sitting in the background. Now imagine something different. Imagine reaching the end of 2026, knowing you kept your word to yourself, knowing you showed up even on hard days, knowing you became stronger because you refused to quit. That feeling is real, and it is available to you, but only if you decide today. A turning point is not about becoming someone new overnight. It is about returning to the person you know you can be. Most people already know what they should do. They just do not do it consistently. That is not a knowledge problem. That is a commitment problem. And commitment begins with a clear decision. When you declare 2026 your year, you are telling your mind and your actions that excuses no longer run the show. You are telling yourself that comfort will no longer control your future. Growth is uncomfortable. Responsibility is uncomfortable. But regret is far worse. Short-term comfort costs long-term confidence. There will be days in 2026 when you want to quit. That does not mean your decision was wrong. It means you are growing. There will be days when no one notices your effort. That does not mean it is pointless. It means character is being built. There will be days when progress feels slow. That does not mean it is not working. It means patience is required. A turning point also means you stop waiting for permission. No one is coming to save you. No one is responsible for your future except you. That may sound heavy, but it is also freeing. The moment you accept full responsibility is the moment you take full control. Start with one simple declaration. This year, I will do the basic things better than ever before. I will manage my time with respect. I will protect my energy. I will speak honestly to myself. I will stop breaking promises to myself. I will do the work even when it feels boring. Success is not exciting most days. It is routine done well. Your mind needs leadership. If you do not lead it, your habits will. If you do not give it direction, distractions will. Declaring a turning point gives your mind a target. And when the mind has a target, it begins to organize behavior around it. Do not underestimate the power of small daily actions done with intention. A few minutes of reflection, a clear plan for the day, a commitment to finish what you start. These are not dramatic, but they are powerful. Over time, they change how you see yourself, and once your self-image changes, your behavior follows. 2026 does not owe you anything. Time is neutral. It gives everyone the same days. What you do with them is what makes the difference. Stop waiting for confidence. Confidence is built by action, not before it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust with yourself. And self-trust changes everything. This is your moment to stop drifting, to stop hoping things will magically improve, to stop living on the edge of your potential. A turning point is not a feeling, it is a decision followed by daily effort. If you fall short, do not quit. Adjust and continue. Progress is not about perfection, it is about persistence. The person you become by staying committed matters more than the speed of your results. So make the declaration now, quietly but firmly. 2026 is not just another year. It is the year you take yourself seriously, the year you stop running from responsibility, the year you build a life you can respect. You do not need to change everything today. You need to decide today. Decision comes first. Action follows. Results come later. This is how lives turn around. One honest decision. One clear declaration. 1 year lived with purpose. And that year can be 2026 if you choose it. Chapter 2. Decide who you become this year. People spend years trying to change their results without ever deciding who they are going to be. That is why effort feels heavy and progress feels slow. Life does not respond first to what you want. Life responds to who you decide to become. The strongest force shaping your future is not your goals. It is your identity. When you decide who you are going to be this year, your actions begin to line up without constant struggle. Most people wake up each day reacting. They react to messages. They react to pressure. They react to moods. They react to other people's expectations. Reaction creates a scattered life. Decision creates a directed life. If 2026 is going to be different, then you must stop reacting and start choosing. Deciding who you become is not about fantasy or pretending. It is about clarity. It is about saying, this is the kind of person I will practice being every day, not someday. This year, a person who shows up, a person who finishes tasks, a person who speaks honestly, a person who keeps standards even when no one is watching. Identity shapes behavior. If you see yourself as someone who quits when it gets uncomfortable, then quitting will feel natural. If you decide you are someone who stays steady under pressure, then effort becomes easier because it matches who you believe you are. The mind always works to protect identity. Many people wait for proof before they change how they see themselves. That approach keeps them stuck. Identity comes first. Evidence follows. You act like the person you choose to become before results show up. Over time, the results catch up. Think carefully about this year, not what you want to achieve, but how you want to operate. How do you want to handle stress? How do you want to handle boredom? How do you want to handle failure? These moments define you more than success ever will. A strong year begins with personal standards. Standards are quiet decisions about what you will and will not accept from yourself. Low standards create excuses. High standards create progress. Standards do not need to be extreme. They need to be consistent. Consistency builds trust with yourself, and trust builds confidence. Deciding who you become also means deciding what you stop being. You cannot carry every old habit into a new identity. You must let some things go. The habit of delay, the habit of negative self-talk, the habit of starting without finishing. Letting go can feel uncomfortable because it challenges what is familiar. Familiar does not mean effective. Your daily behavior is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you act, you reinforce an identity. When you skip what matters, you reinforce a careless version of yourself. When you do the work even when it feels dull, you reinforce a disciplined version of yourself. Over time, one identity grows stronger than the other. This year, ask yourself better questions. Not can I do this, but who am I practicing being today? Not do I feel like it, but does this align with who I decided to become? These questions change behavior at the root. You do not need a complete personality change. You need intentional direction. Small adjustments in how you act add up quickly when they are driven by identity. 10 minutes of focused effort every day becomes powerful when it is tied to self-respect. There will be moments when old habits try to pull you back. That does not mean your decision failed. It means your identity is being tested. Growth always brings resistance. Stay steady. Repetition builds belief. Belief strengthens behavior. Deciding who you become also affects how you treat people. The person you choose to be determines how you listen, how you speak, and how you respond. A calm person creates calmer situations. A prepared person handles pressure better. A reliable person earns trust over time. This year you can decide to become someone who does not need constant motivation. Someone who acts because it is part of their character. Motivation comes and goes. Identity stays. Your environment matters, but your identity matters more. Even in the same situation, two people respond differently because they see themselves differently. Change how you see yourself and your response changes. Take time to define your personal character for this year. Write it clearly in your mind. Not vague words, but clear behavior. I am someone who plans my days. I am someone who finishes what I start. I am someone who tells the truth to myself. I am someone who takes care of my health. These are choices, not traits. Do not wait until you feel strong to act strong. Strength is built through repeated action. Do not wait until you feel focused to act focused. Focus is built through practice. Action shapes emotion, not the other way around. This decision will simplify your life. When you know who you are becoming, decisions become easier. You waste less time debating. You spend less energy negotiating with yourself. Clarity reduces mental noise. You will not always perform perfectly. That is not required. What matters is returning to your chosen identity quickly. One bad day does not define you. Quitting defines you. Continuing builds character. This year is not about impressing anyone. It is about building a version of yourself you can respect. Respect grows when effort is honest, when excuses fade, when progress becomes personal. Decide now that you are no longer waiting for circumstances to change before you change. Decide that your behavior will not depend on mood. Decide that your standards are not negotiable. The future version of you is watching every small choice. Each one is shaping the person you will be proud of or disappointed by. Pride comes from alignment. When actions match identity, peace follows. 2026 can be the year you stop wondering who you could be and start practicing who you chose to become. That choice is available every morning. It does not require permission. It does not require perfect conditions. Decide who you become this year, and then live in alignment with that decision. One ordinary day at a time. Ordinary days lived with intention create extraordinary results. Chapter 3. Build days that match your values. If you're serious about real change this year, it won't be enough to just set goals or dream bigger. You have to go deeper than that. You have to build your days around what matters to you most. Your values. The things you say are important when no one else is around. When your actions match your values, something shifts. You begin to feel clearer, lighter, more certain. Your confidence grows, not because you've reached some milestone, but because your life finally reflects who you are on the inside. Too many people are living lives that exhaust them because their daily routines are built around noise, pressure, distraction, and other people's expectations. They do things out of habit, not purpose. They say things like, "I value health," but skip breakfast and scroll their phone all night. They say, "I value family," but stay busy with things that leave them with no time for connection. That's not because they're bad people, it's because their days are not built with intention. If you don't build your day, the world will build it for you, and the world doesn't care about your values, so this is the year to change that. You need to pause and ask yourself what truly matters to you. Not what looks good on paper, not what others want from you. What really matters to you when everything else is quiet? Is it growth, health, honesty, freedom, focus? Choose clearly, because your days will reflect whatever you say yes to. If you don't choose your values, you'll end up chasing things that don't matter and wondering why life feels off. When you wake up in the morning, you are already shaping your future by what you decide to do first. Think about that. The first hour of your day tells your mind who's in eins. Is it you, or is it your notifications, distractions, and stress? A person who values clarity might start the day planning and journaling. A person who values discipline might exercise before the day gets busy. These aren't random habits, they're rooted in values. When your routines serve your values, life starts to make sense. One of the most powerful decisions you can make is to protect the beginning and the end of your day. These are the bookends that shape everything in between. You don't need a perfect schedule, you need a repeatable one that honors what matters. That might mean saying no to things you used to tolerate. That might mean taking breaks to reset your focus. That might mean eating better, sleeping better, moving more, checking your phone less. Small choices, but when they reflect your values, they build a strong life. And here's the thing, when you build your days around your values, It gets easier to say no to what doesn't matter. You don't feel as tempted to waste time. You don't feel as lost. You don't need to constantly look for motivation because your life starts to feel meaningful. Motivation comes when your actions feel right, when they align with who you want to be. That alignment is what gives people energy and purpose. Think about how you're spending your time lately. Are you proud of how your days look? Are you being honest about what you avoid? Time tells the truth. It reveals whether your values are just words or part of your routine. If you say you value growth but don't read, learn or reflect, what does that say? If you say you value health but make no effort to rest or move, what are you reinforcing? Every day is a chance to either live by your values or drift from them. You don't need a perfect day to live with purpose. You need an honest one. If you only have 20 minutes free, use it well. If you only have energy for one thing today, make it count. Consistency over time matters more than random bursts of effort. You're building a foundation, not just chasing a feeling. It's also important to understand that values aren't ideas, they're lived. If you say you value peace, but choose arguments, you're lying to yourself. If you say you value learning, but scroll instead of reading, you're sending the wrong message to your mind. That disconnect will catch up to you. It creates inattention, and over time, it becomes frustration, guilt, or even burnout. The way out isn't more effort, it's more alignment. When you start living your days with values at the center, you'll notice your relationship improve. You'll show up with more presence. You'll listen better. You'll have fewer regrets. People will start to trust you more. Not because of what you say, but because they see you living it. That's how trust is built. That's how self-respect is built too. Take a close look at what drains you. Maybe it's the chaos of always rushing. Maybe it's how often you avoid hard conversations. Maybe it's the habit of overcommitting and never having time to breathe. These are signals. Your life is trying to tell you something. Don't ignore it. Use it. Let it show you where your values are being neglected. Then start small. One choice at a time. One part of the day at a time. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being the kind of person who doesn't just say I want a better life, but actually builds it. Piece by piece, day by day. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait for the right mood. You just need to begin. Ask yourself, if today was recorded and played back, would it reflect the kind of person I want to be? If not, what can I change? What part of my routine can I rebuild so that it lines up with what I truly care about? Most people never ask these questions. That's why most people live the same year over and over. But you're here, you're aware, and that means you can choose differently. Your calendar can start matching your values. Your actions can start reflecting your character. Your habits can support your vision, not sabotage it. That's the work. That's what it means to grow. And if you keep going, one aligned day at a time, something powerful happens. Your life begins to feel like it's yours. You stop comparing so much. You stop chasing what isn't meant for you. You feel more grounded, more focused, more alive. Because now you're not just surviving days, you're building them. You're shaping your life from the inside out. So don't waste another week being out of sync with yourself. Choose clarity. Choose alignment. Choose to build days that reflect what matters most to you. And once you do, don't look back. Just keep showing up. Keep choosing with purpose. That's how you turn 2026 into the most honest and fulfilling year of your life. Chapter 4. Stop drifting and choose intentional actions. Most people don't realize how much of their life is spent drifting, waking up without a clear focus, moving through the day, reacting instead of choosing, doing things just because they've always done them. Drifting looks harmless on the surface. You stay busy, you get through the day, and nothing seems broken. But underneath, you feel the weight. A quiet frustration. A sense that life is slipping by and you're not really in control of where it's going. Drifting doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly. It starts when you stop questioning your routines, when you stop setting clear goals, when you avoid making decisions because they feel uncomfortable, when you say "I'll figure it out later" one too many times, and then one day you realize months have passed and nothing has really changed. You're the same. Your results are the same. The things you wanted are still waiting on the other side of your hesitation. That's why this chapter matters. This is where everything begins to shift. If 2026 is going to mean something real to you, it starts here, with the decision to stop drifting and start taking intentional action. Not random action. Not action based on what feels urgent, but action rooted in purpose, clarity, and personal responsibility. You have to take an honest look at how you're spending your days. What are you choosing to do that's leading nowhere? What are you avoiding even though it matters? What have you been telling yourself you'll do when the time is right? These are the questions that make people uncomfortable, but they're also the questions that wake people up. You can't fix what you won't face. Intentional action begins with awareness. You need to know where your time and energy are going. Not just in theory, but in real terms. What gets your attention each day? What pulls you off track? What tasks make you feel productive, but aren't actually moving you forward? You don't need to do more. You need to do what matters. Most people overestimate how much time they have, and underestimate how much time they waste. You don't need more hours. You need more intention. You can reclaim your power just by making one clear decision at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. The truth is, if you don't know what matters most to you, everything will seem important, and that's the fastest path to burnout and distraction. Intentional action means you decide in advance what gets your best effort. You stop saying yes to everything. You stop chasing every new idea. You focus on fewer things and do them better. And when you choose intention, you also choose responsibility. You stop blaming the world for your lack of progress. You stop pointing fingers. You start owning your outcomes. That's not always easy, but it's freeing, because now you're in charge. You're no longer living in reaction. You're living by design. This shift doesn't require a massive overhaul. It starts with small, conscious choices. When you wake up, ask yourself, what actually matters today? Not what feels urgent, not what others expect, what actually moves your life forward. Then protect that time like it matters. Because it does. Discipline is what separates drifting from direction. It's not about being harsh with yourself. It's about staying committed to the life you want. Most people don't lack dreams. They lack structure. They don't need more motivation. They need better systems. Systems that are simple. Systems that support consistency. Start by building structure into your days. Set clear priorities. Keep a short list. 3 things that matter most today. No more. Make decisions ahead of time. Don't leave room for debate. Don't wait until you feel like it. Action creates clarity. Waiting creates noise. You don't have to move fast. You just have to move on purpose. Even a slow step in the right direction is better than running in circles. When you move with intention, you begin to feel progress. And that feeling changes everything. Progress builds momentum. Momentum builds belief. And belief helps you keep going, even when it's hard. When you drift, you feel stuck. But when you act with purpose, you feel alive. You feel capable. You start to trust yourself again. And here's something important. Intentional action doesn't mean doing everything perfectly. It means doing what you said you would do. It means staying focused even when it's boring. It means choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. That's the kind of strength that builds a solid life. There will be days you want to slip back into drifting. It'll feel easier, less pressure, less friction, but easy is not the goal. Alignment is. Growth is. Direction, and that requires effort. Not chaotic effort, guided effort. Effort you can be proud of. Intentional living is not about control. It's about clarity, knowing where you're going, knowing why it matters, and choosing every day to take steps toward it. Some steps will be big, most will be small, but all of them count when they're consistent. You have a limited number of days in this year. Each one will pass whether you use it well or not. That's reality. The question is, who will you be on the other side of those days? A person who drifted again, or a person who chose to live on purpose? Stop overthinking. Stop waiting for the perfect plan. Start where you are. Use what you have. Make one clear decision today. Then follow through. Do that enough days in a row, and your life begins to change. Not because you got lucky, but because you finally got intentional. 2026 is not going to reward random effort. It's going to reward people who live with focus, who make strong choices, who take back control of their minutes, their mindset, and their momentum. That can be you. But only if you stop drifting. So take the lead. Be honest about where your time is going. Choose your priorities before the world chooses for you. Say no to what doesn't match your direction. Say yes to the daily actions that shape the life you actually want. You are not stuck. You are not behind. You are simply one intentional decision away from a better day, and enough better days lead to a better year. A year you'll look back on with pride. A year where you can finally say, I lived like it mattered. And it all begins now with the choice to stop drifting. Chapter 5. Train focus by limiting daily distractions. Focus is not something you're born with, or something you just lose over time. It's something you train, and in the world we live in right now, with constant noise, alerts, opinions, and open tabs, the ability to focus has become rare, but it's also become one of the most valuable skills you can build. Because the truth is, distractions are not just stealing your time, they're stealing your potential. If you look at the most meaningful work you've done in your life, chances are you were focused. You weren't multitasking. You weren't checking your phone every 5 minutes. You weren't jumping from one thing to another. You were present. You were engaged. And that's where deep work happens. That's where you build progress you can be proud of. That's where confidence starts to grow. Not from how fast you go, but from how deeply you commit to what's in front of you. Distractions don't always show up looking like problems. They often come disguised as convenience. Quick updates, short videos, little notifications, endless scrolling. It's all designed to pull you in, break your rhythm, and replace focus with reaction. You might tell yourself, it's just a few minutes. But those minutes are costing you your edge, because every time you let yourself get pulled away from what matters, you're training your mind to be scattered. You have to become protective of your attention. You only get a certain amount focused energy each day. If you spend the first few hours checking everything but doing nothing meaningful, the rest of your day won't feel strong. You'll feel behind, unorganized, and mentally drained. And the worst part, you'll blame yourself, not realizing it wasn't a lack of motivation, it was a lack of boundaries. So, if 2026 is going to be your year, you must start acting like your attention is a limited resource, because it is. You can no longer afford to live in reaction mode. That's where average lives stay stuck. The people who change their lives are the ones who build their focus like a skill. They treat it like a muscle. They learn when to say no. They turn things off when it's time to get serious. They don't need to do everything. They do the right things deeply. Start simple. Choose one task and give it your full attention. No switching, no notifications, no tabs open in the background. Just one thing. You'd be amazed how quickly your mind starts to calm down when it isn't being pulled in 5 directions. Do that a few times a day. Train your brain to stay with something. The more you practice this, the more control you start to feel. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need 10 hours of deep work a day. You need blocks of time where your attention belongs fully to you, where you can think clearly, work honestly, and finish what you started. This is where momentum lives, not in bursts of scattered energy, but in blocks of real focus. To build focus, you also need to be aware of your patterns. When do you usually drift off into distractions? What time of day do you feel most alert? Which environments help you stay centered? If you don't study your behavior, you'll keep falling into the same traps. You don't need to guess, just pay attention. Most people are distracted not because they're lazy, but because they've never taken the time to build an environment that helps them succeed. Make it easy to focus by making it harder to get distracted. That might mean putting your phone in another room when you work. That might mean using tools to block social media during certain hours. That might mean cleaning your workspace so your mind feels clear. You don't need to fight distractions with willpower alone. You can design your surroundings to help you. And don't forget the power of routine. If your days are chaotic, your mind will be too. Create a rhythm. Set times for deep work. Set limits for how often you check messages. Let your brain know when it's time to perform and when it's time to rest. This kind of structure isn't rigid. It's freeing. Because now your energy isn't scattered across dozens of random tasks. It's being used where it matters most. When you start training your focus, you'll notice something powerful. You start feeling more capable. You start finishing things you used to avoid. You stop needing constant motivation. You build real confidence, because now you can trust yourself to stick with things. That trust is worth more than any productivity hack. That's what gets you through the hard days. That's what keeps you growing. The challenge is staying consistent when distractions feel tempting, because there will always be something easier than doing the work. But ease isn't what you're after. Growth is. And growth requires attention. It requires presence. You can't grow if you're only half in. You have to be there, mentally and emotionally, if you want your effort to pay off. And remember, distractions don't just take time, they steal depth. You could spend 4 hours half-focused and get less done than you could in 1 hour of real presence. So stop measuring your days by how long you were busy. Start measuring them by how focused you were when it mattered. You don't need to cut out every distraction forever. That's not realistic. You need to be intentional. You need to ask, is this pulling me away from what I said I care about? If the answer is yes, make a change. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. Because every day you train your focus is a day you take back control of your life. And it's not just about work. Focus helps in your relationships, in your health, in your conversations. When you're really there, people feel it. You listen better, you connect deeper, you make better decisions. A focused life is a meaningful life, and it's built one moment at a time. So look at how you're living today. What are you letting in that doesn't deserve your attention? What could you shut off, walk away from, or delete, so that your mind feels clear again? The most powerful thing you can do in a distracted world is to become the kind of person who's fully present.
2026 doesn't need to be louder. It needs to be clearer, and that clarity begins with focus. Not once, every day. When you train that, you change everything.
Chapter 6. Practice consistency, even when motivation fades. Most people begin with energy. The start of a goal feels exciting. You plan, you imagine results, you feel ready, but that excitement doesn't last. It fades. It always does. And that's the moment most people stop. They think the problem is them. They think they're not motivated enough or strong enough. But the truth is, motivation was never the real foundation. Consistency is. The people who succeed are not the ones who feel inspired every day. They are the ones who keep showing up even when they don't. If you rely on how you feel to decide what to do, you will struggle. Feelings are temporary. They change based on sleep, stress, weather, and 100 other things you can't always control. But actions don't need to wait for feelings. You can act without permission from your emotions. That's where real growth happens. Consistency is doing what you said you would do even after the mood you said it in is gone. That's when it counts. That's when you train something deeper than motivation. You train discipline. You build character. You earn self-respect. Not by being perfect, not by always feeling ready, but by staying with it when it gets quiet, when it feels boring, when no one is watching. Think about your past goals. How many did you start with fire but quit when things got hard? It wasn't because you weren't capable, it was because you didn't prepare for the days when motivation would disappear. Those days are guaranteed to come. You need to expect them, not fear them. You need a plan for them. Because the person who shows up on those days is the person who wins long term. Start building systems instead of relying on moods. Systems don't care how you feel. A system is a habit, a routine, a time block, a decision made ahead of time. When you don't have to decide every day what to do, you remove friction. You stop wasting energy debating with yourself. You just act, and action compounds. Small, consistent effort always beats random big bursts. 1 solid hour every day will give you more results than 10 intense hours once a month. The compound effect of showing up daily is real. It changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling like a person who always restarts and begin to feel like someone who finishes what they start. You don't have to move fast. You don't have to be extreme. You just have to be steady. Progress builds in silence. In those quiet days when it feels like nothing is happening. But if you keep going, something is happening. Every time you repeat the behavior, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who doesn't give up. That's why it's important to keep the bar realistic. If you set your expectations too high, you'll burn out. If you demand perfection, you'll quit the moment you slip. Make your process sustainable. Focus on what you can repeat, not what you can endure once. Consistency grows when you keep the practice simple, clear, and achievable. Track your behavior, not just your results. Results come late, behavior happens now. Ask yourself, did I show up today? Did I follow through on what I planned? Did I do even one thing that aligned with my goals? These are the questions that matter. They keep you grounded. Don't confuse progress with perfection. You will miss a day. You will mess up. That's part of it. What matters most is how fast you return. One bad day is just that. One day. What hurts you is when that one day turns into a week, then a month. Recovery speed is a sign of growth. There will be days when you don't want to do anything. That's normal. But the goal on those days isn't to perform at your best. The goal is to maintain the habit. Even the smallest version of it. Even 5 minutes of effort is a win. It tells your brain, this is who I am. I show up no matter what.
Consistency is personal. What works for someone else may not work for you. So stop copying other people's routines and build your own. Choose what fits your life, your pace, your values. The best routine is the one you can stick to, not the one that looks impressive. Surround yourself with reminders of your commitment, a journal, a habit tracker, a note to yourself on your desk. Remind your future self why you started. Remind your future self why you started. Remind yourself that you are not chasing motivation. You are building momentum. People think motivation brings results. It's actually the other way around. When you stay consistent, you start to feel progress. That progress gives you energy, and that energy creates more motivation. But it starts with discipline. It starts with doing the work even when you don't feel like it. You are not always going to enjoy the process. That's okay. You're not doing this because it's always fun. You're doing it because it matters. Because you've decided to grow. Because you're building something better for yourself. The process is not supposed to entertain you. It's supposed to shape you. Consistency also builds trust with yourself and with others. People trust those who do what they say they will do. And more importantly, you begin to trust you. That self-trust is one of the strongest things you can carry into anything. Work, health, relationships, decision. You start to become someone who doesn't break promises to themselves. And that changes how you walk into rooms, how you approach goals, how you speak. Because now your words are backed by action. You're no longer hoping things work out. You're building them too. There's no secret trick here, just honest effort, repeated over time. You don't need to be loud about it. You don't need to announce your goals to the world. Just stay consistent. Let your progress speak for itself. Even when no one is watching. Even when no one is clapping. Even when no one understands what you're doing. Keep going. Your future self is counting on you. Not the version of you that gets hyped up, but the one who honors the quiet work. You don't need motivation to show up tomorrow. You just need to remember why you started. You need to remember that real change is built through ordinary days that most people ignore. But you won't ignore them. You'll use them. You'll build with them. This is your edge. This is your power. Show up. Stay consistent. Do what matters. Especially when you don't feel like it. That's where the real transformation begins. And that's how 2026 becomes your year. Not through bursts of energy, but through the quiet, steady work that no one sees but you.
Chapter 7. Strengthen self-respect through honest effort. Self-respect isn't built by talking about what you want to do. It's built when you show up and do what needs to be done, especially when it's difficult. Most people think confidence comes from how you look or what you achieve. But real confidence, deep, unshakable confidence, comes from self-respect. And self-respect comes from effort. Honest effort. Not performance for others. Not checking boxes, but effort that's rooted in your own standards, your own values, your own personal truth. You know when you've given your best. You know when you've held back. You know when you've lied to yourself and said, "I'll start tomorrow." No one else needs to see it. No one else needs to call you out. Because deep down, you already feel it. That's why you lose trust in yourself. That's why you doubt your potential. Not because you're not capable, but because you've broken too many silent agreements with yourself. There's a different way to live, a way where you don't need to impress anyone, a way where your progress is between you and you. That way begins with effort, not perfect results, not dramatic outcomes, just effort you're proud of, effort that makes you respect the person you're becoming. That's what strengthens your foundation. That's what keeps you steady when life throws pressure, chaos, or failure your way. We live in a time where shortcuts are celebrated,
where the loudest voice wins attention. But respect, real self-respect, is never loud. It's quiet. It's built in the moments no one sees. It's built when you choose to do what's right for your growth instead of what's easy. When you say no to excuses and yes to action. When you keep going, not for praise, but because you know you're capable of more. You can't lie your way into self-respect. You can post quotes. You can tell people your plans. But if your actions don't match, you'll feel the gap. You can't fake that. And the longer you ignore that gap, the heavier life feels. You get tired. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing things that don't match who you want to be. Honest effort is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. You don't need to go viral. You don't need a big win today. You need to honor your word. You need to finish the small task. You need to follow through, even when it feels pointless. That's how you earn your own respect. That's how you build a solid sense of self. And this isn't about being hard on yourself. It's not about punishment or perfection. It's about integrity, doing what aligns with your values, doing what helps you grow. You don't need anyone else to approve of you. What you need is to look in the mirror and feel proud of your direction. That's a different kind of power, one that doesn't shake when things go wrong. Self-respect grows when you stop waiting for permission. You don't need to be more experienced. You don't need to be more talented. You need to stop hiding behind fear and start living in your effort. What you avoid is where you lose strength. What you face is where you build it. Think about it. When was the last time you really gave your full effort to something meaningful? Not half done, not distracted, full, honest, focused effort. That's rare. But it's available every single day. You don't need special conditions. You need a decision. You need a commitment to show up, not to be perfect, not to be the best, just to be fully engaged in what you're doing. Most people never experience their full potential because they don't stay with anything long enough. They stop when it gets hard. They quit when it's inconvenient. And then they wonder why they don't feel proud of themselves. But pride doesn't come from outcomes. It comes from ownership, from being someone who follows through. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop negotiating with yourself. You need to stop lowering your standards when things feel hard. You need to rise to your own expectations, not drop to your old habits. That's how you become someone you can respect. And once you respect yourself, you stop chasing approval. You stop needing validation. You lead your life from within. The strongest people you know aren't strong because life was easy. They're strong because they built a foundation of self-respect. They went through failure. They had moments of doubt, but they kept showing up. They gave honest effort even when it didn't feel rewarding. And over time, that effort turned into pride. Not fake pride, earned pride. That's what you're after this year. Not just wins, not just numbers, a deeper kind of growth, a kind that stays with you. One that turns into discipline, one that shapes your habits, one that makes you feel steady when life is unstable. You can't get that through shortcuts. You get it through daily effort that you know in your heart is real. So take inventory. Look at your life. Where are you falling short? Not because you lack ability, but because you're not giving full effort. What area of your life would change if you stopped making excuses and started showing up with honesty? You already know the answer. The hard part isn't knowing, it's doing. But you are capable of doing hard things. You've just forgotten what it feels like to keep going. This is the year to remember. This is the year to rebuild your reputation with yourself. Not by chasing perfection, but by building consistency, by being honest, by doing the simple things well, the boring things, the things no one talks about, the things that actually change you. Self-respect is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the quiet moments when no one's watching. When you're tired, but you do it anyway. When you're discouraged, but you take the next step. When you're unsure, but you act with clarity. That's where real growth lives. You don't have to wait for a sign. You don't need a big breakthrough. Start where you are. Be real about what's holding you back. Be honest about what you've been avoiding. And decide right now to show up differently. Not because you want to impress anyone, but because you're ready to respect yourself again. Every choice you make today is shaping your identity. Every time you show up with effort, you're building a stronger version of you. And every time you quit early, cut corners, or pretend it's not just the task that suffers, it's your self-respect, and that's a price too high to pay. So commit, not to perfect results, not to flawless progress. Commit to honest effort, every single day. That's how you win long term. That's how you walk through life with your head up. That's how you become someone who doesn't just chase growth, but lives it.
Chapter 8. Create routines that protect your energy. Energy is one of your most valuable resources, and yet it's the one most people protect the least. They try to manage their time, manage their tasks, manage their goals, but they forget that without energy, none of that works. You can't think clearly. You can't stay focused. You can't follow through. Energy is what drives everything, and if you're constantly drained, no plan will save you. That's why building routines that protect your energy isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters without burning out. Most people burn out not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they have no system to support how they live. They start the day reacting. They try to fit too much in. They don't rest with purpose. They move from one thing to another with no mental reset. They wake up tired, go to bed stressed, and wonder why nothing feels sustainable. Routines are not about being robotic. They're about being intentional. When you create structure, you free up mental space. You make fewer decisions. You reduce the noise. You conserve energy for the things that matter most. Without a routine, everything feels urgent. With one, your mind starts to calm down, because it knows what's coming. You stop running. You start leading. The first part of protecting your energy is deciding what drains you the most. Not in general, specifically. Which habits leave you exhausted by noon? Which people take more than they give? What environments make it harder to think clearly? You can't fix what you ignore, and if you're constantly feeling worn out, it's not because your goals are too big. It's because you haven't created the rhythm that supports them. Once you know your drains, you design around them. That means putting limits in place. That means saying no before you're overwhelmed. That means building buffers into your day. Not packing every hour like it's a race. The most effective people don't fill their schedule. They fill their time with purpose and leave space for recovery. You need routines that refuel you. Start with your morning. How you begin the day matters more than you think. Waking up and diving straight into stress pulls you into a reactive state. But when you start with clarity, even just 5 minutes of quiet, a short walk, a focused plan, you take back control. You don't have to copy anyone else's routine. You just need one that centers you. The same applies to how you close your day. If you go to bed with your mind racing, you're not really resting. You're just collapsing. A strong evening routine helps you reset. It helps you process what happened and prepare for tomorrow. Something as simple as a journal entry or planning your next day can make a big difference. The goal isn't perfection, it's peace. During the day, build checkpoints, short pauses, breaks with intention. These aren't wasted time, they're recharge stations. A 5-minute pause between tasks can reset your mind more than you think. We're not wired to go non-stop. Trying to push through everything is a fast track to frustration. Rest isn't a reward, it's part of the system.
Protecting your energy also means guarding your input. What you consume mentally has a direct effect on your output. If you're constantly scrolling, reading negativity or jumping between tabs, you're not just wasting time, you're leaking energy. The mind can only hold so much before it becomes scattered. A focused mind is an energized mind. Keep your workspace clean. Make it easier to focus by reducing visual clutter. Every extra thing in front of you adds to your mental load. You don't need a perfect setup, you need a simple one. Create a space that invites clarity. And don't underestimate the power of transition. When you move from one task to another, without pause, your brain doesn't get the message. It carries tension from one thing into the next. Slow down your transition. Take a breath. Change your physical position. Even a brief reset helps your system recharge. The people around you also affect your energy more than you realize. You need boundaries. Not every message needs a reply right away. Not every request is urgent. If you let everyone else control your availability, your focus will suffer. Boundaries are not selfish, they are how you protect your priorities. And while we're talking about routines, let's talk about fuel. The way you eat, move and sleep are not separate from your energy. They are your energy. Skipping meals, neglecting movement, staying up too late, these are small choices that add up fast. Build routines around your body, not just your work. Energy is physical, mental and emotional. You have to take care of all three. Start with small, consistent actions. Don't try to build the perfect routine overnight. Choose one area to improve, maybe your mornings, your breaks or your sleep. Keep it simple. Make it doable. Then build from there. The point isn't to live on a schedule, it's to build a rhythm that supports the life you want. When your routines protect your energy, everything else improves. You make clearer decisions. You handle stress better. You follow through more often. You stop reacting and start choosing. Your goals feel less overwhelming because you're no longer running on empty. You have to stop waiting for motivation to fix everything. Motivation fades. Energy management is what keeps you steady. Routines aren't about forcing discipline. They're about reducing resistance. They help you start with less effort. They turn good behavior into automatic behavior. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be consistent. Most of the results you're looking for don't require harder work. They require smarter systems. Energy is not just about willpower. It's about design. The way you live creates the way you feel. And if you're feeling tired all the time, something in your structure needs to shift. This year is not about doing more for the sake of it. It's about protecting what fuels you. It's about becoming someone who doesn't wait to crash before resting. It's about leading your life from a place of strength, not survival. That's what routines help you do. You have the power to create that structure. No one else can do it for you. It doesn't matter how messy your past routines have been. What matters is what you choose to build now. The habits that protect your energy will protect your progress. They will support your clarity, your focus, and your peace. You don't have to live in burnout mode. You don't have to chase productivity every second. You can build a life that works for you, not against you. But it starts with intention. It starts with a decision to stop ignoring your energy and start honoring it. That decision is yours, and it can begin today.
Chapter 9. Learn, adapt, and apply lessons quickly. Learning is not just about taking in more information. It's about understanding what's happening around you, making sense of it, and doing something with it. Growth in your life, your mindset, your skills, it only happens when you take what you learn and put it to use fast. Not months later, not when everything feels perfect, but now, because life moves quickly, and if you want to keep up, you have to be someone who learns fast, adapts faster, and applies what matters without overthinking.
A lot of equal stay stuck, not because they don't know enough, but because they don't do anything with what they already know. They keep collecting advice, reading books, watching videos, waiting for the right piece of wisdom to make everything click. But knowledge isn't power until it becomes action. Knowing what to do and not doing it is no different than not knowing at all. It sounds harsh, but it's true. Application is the difference between progress and potential. You learn faster when you let go of the need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything before you begin. You need to begin, pay attention to the feedback life gives you, and adjust. Every setback, every mistake, every result is a lesson. The quicker you process it, the quicker you improve. The people who grow the most are not the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They're the ones who reflect, adapt, and move forward without dragging the past with them. Adaptability is not about weakness or giving up. It's about staying aware. When something isn't working, you don't need to stay loyal to it. You can shift your approach. You can adjust your strategy. You can keep your goal but change your path. That's how strong people operate. They don't waste time holding on to things that no longer serve them. They don't take failure personally. They take it as data, as input, as feedback, and they keep moving. The speed at which you apply lessons is one of the clearest signs of growth. When you see something clearly, whether it's a mistake you've made, a pattern that's holding you back, or a better way to handle your day, you don't need a second opinion. You don't need a delay. You need to act. That speed of action turns you into a sharper, more confident, more effective version of yourself. You don't need to wait for life to force you to learn. You can choose to learn by observing, by asking better questions, by reflecting on your behavior daily. Most people only reflect when something breaks. You don't have to live that way. You can build the habit of reflection into your routine. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes and ask yourself, what worked today? What didn't? What do I need to change tomorrow? Simple question, but they bring clarity, and clarity leads to better action. Applying lessons quickly also builds self-trust. When you prove to yourself that you can adjust when needed, you start to believe in your ability to handle more. You don't need life to be predictable. You don't need to avoid challenges. You just need to keep learning and keep moving. That's the mindset that creates momentum. There's nothing wrong with failing. What matters is what you do after. Do you hide from it, or do you study it and use? Every experience has something to teach you, but only if you're willing to stop and look. If you rush past your experiences, you miss the lesson. If you blame others for your results, you give away your power. Growth starts when you take full ownership of everything life shows you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking learning only happens from success. But failure teaches faster, it's clearer, it's sharper, it points directly to the gap. The only question is whether you have the mindset to handle it, whether you're strong enough to say, I could have done that better, without turning it into shame. This kind of learning is personal, it's direct, and it works. Don't wait for a lesson to be obvious before you act on it. Sometimes growth shows up as a gut feeling, a small insight, a moment where something clicks. Move on that. Don't ignore it, just because it's not loud. The quicker you respond to what life shows you, the more you stay in control of your direction. You don't need 100 new lessons to change. You need to actually apply the few that matter. That's how you build momentum. One clear adjustment, followed by consistent effort. One change in your routine, followed by honest reflection. You don't need to be constantly evolving. You need to be constantly improving. The world doesn't wait for people who move slow. You don't need to rush but you do need to be responsive. If you're stuck in the same place month after month, chances are you're ignoring something life is trying to teach you. Pay attention. Be honest. Then act. And when you do learn something valuable, write it down. Put it somewhere you can see it. Let it shape your choices. Don't let lessons fade just because the moment passed. Wisdom compounds when you keep it alive in your actions. Otherwise it becomes just another thing you forgot. Learning isn't about memorizing more ideas. It's about building awareness. It's about noticing the patterns that help or hurt you. It's about being curious enough to ask why, instead of just repeating old habits. The more curious you are, the more you learn. The more you apply, the more you grow. If you want this year to look different, you have to stop living on repeat. You have to treat every experience like a chance to level up. Even the frustrating ones, especially the frustrating ones. That's where the biggest breakthroughs come from. Not comfort, but challenge. Every challenge is an invitation to learn. Accept that invitation. This isn't about moving fast just for the sake of it. It's about living with intention, with awareness, with the ability to adjust when needed, because life won't go exactly the way you planned. But if you're willing to learn, adapt, and apply without delay, you'll always stay in motion. You'll stay in growth. You have what you need to keep growing. The answers are not out of reach. They're often right in front of you, hidden in the last mistake, the last conversation, the last time you hesitated. Look there, then do something about it. That's how change happens. Not later, but now. And that's how you keep becoming the kind of person who doesn't just set goals, but grows into the one who achieves.
Chapter 10. Finish each week with clear adjustments. Progress is not automatic. Just because you're putting in effort doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction. You can have a full calendar, a long to-do list, and even check off your goals, but still feel stuck if you're not pausing to look at what's working and what's not. That's why ending each week with clear adjustments matters. It turns your week from something you survived into something you learned from, and it gives the next week a better starting point. Most people start strong on Monday and crash by Friday. They feel behind, exhausted, or unsure about what they even accomplished. Then they repeat the same cycle again without stopping to reflect. That's not just a time problem, it's a strategy problem. Without regular adjustments, you carry the same mistakes into the next week. Without review, you don't know where you're leaking time or losing focus. And without clarity, you lose confidence in your direction. Every week is a story. It tells you something about your habits, your patterns, your mindset. But if you're not paying attention, you miss the message. Maybe you committed to too much. Maybe you didn't protect your focus. Maybe your energy dipped midweek because your schedule wasn't realistic. These aren't failures, they're data. You don't need to judge yourself. You need to study yourself. Finishing each week with adjustments means creating space to slow down and think, not just thinking about what happened, but deciding what to change next. This is how you build a life on purpose. This is how you stop drifting and start moving forward with more accuracy. It's not enough to work hard. You have to work smart, and smart work comes from review and correction. Start with 3 simple questions. What went well this week? What drained me or pulled me off track? What do I need to adjust for next week to go better? You don't need to overthink this. You just need to answer honestly. If you make this a habit, your awareness grows fast, and with awareness comes better choices. It could be your routine that needs tweaking. Maybe mornings were rushed. Maybe evenings left you overstimulated and unable to rest. Maybe your meetings took up too much space and you had no room to think. You don't need to overhaul your whole week.
You just need to look at what one thing could be done better. One small shift can create a ripple effect that changes how you feel across your entire day. Adjustments also help you stay flexible without losing direction. Life is unpredictable. You can't plan every detail, but if you're reflecting weekly, you catch problems before they grow. You see patterns before they become setbacks. That's how you stay in control without forcing perfection. Your review can be simple: 10 minutes on a Sunday evening, a short journal entry, a note in your phone. The format doesn't matter. The habit does. The point is to end your week with insight, not just exhaustion. That insight gives you power, it gives you perspective, and it builds your confidence in your own ability to lead your life. Some people avoid review because they don't want to face what didn't go well. They'd rather move on and try harder next time, but ignoring reality doesn't build growth. What builds growth is taking responsibility without shame, looking at what needs to change without beating yourself up. That's how maturity is built. That's how discipline is developed. Making adjustments each week also helps you stay aligned with your goals. It's easy to get off track when you don't have a system of realignment. Weekly reflection is your way of checking your compass. Are your actions still supporting your bigger vision, or have you been reacting to things that don't actually matter? You don't drift far overnight. You drift slowly, over weeks. Adjustments bring you back to center. It's also a chance to realign your energy. Look at how you felt throughout the week. When were you clear? When were you drained? What lifted you? What distracted you? Energy is information. Use it to shape next week with more intention. This isn't just about productivity. It's about living with awareness. Sometimes the adjustment is simple. Start going to bed earlier. Say no to something that didn't fit. Limit social media in the morning. These aren't complicated changes, but they change how you experience your days. And when your days improve, your whole life improves. That's the power of consistency in small adjustments. You don't need a coach to hold you accountable when you build this habit. Your own review becomes your accountability. You begin to lead yourself instead of waiting for pressure to push you. And that's when your progress speeds up. Not because you're doing more, but because you're doing it better. This process also strengthens your ability to self-correct. That means you bounce back quicker from mistakes. You stop repeating what doesn't work. You don't need to keep struggling with the same problem for months. You catch it early. You fix it early. You move on. Every week is a window, a short season of your life. If you don't look back at it, you lose the lessons it brought. And if you keep losing those lessons, you slow down your own evolution. The fastest way to grow is to learn while you move. Review, adjust, apply, repeat. That's how you stay sharp. That's how you stay aligned. Even your wins need review. Don't skip over what worked. Look at it closely. What did you do that made it successful? What system or mindset made it easier? How can you repeat that again? Growth doesn't just come from fixing problems, it also comes from repeating what works. You can also use this time to simplify. If something felt overwhelming, ask why. Maybe your expectations were too high. Maybe you tried to chase too many priorities at once. Maybe you worked from pressure instead of clarity. The review helps you let go of what's not needed, so you can double down on what is. You won't always get it right, but you don't need to. You just need to stay engaged in the process. A person who reflects weekly will always outperform a person who only reacts when things fall apart. Why? Because they're learning faster, they're making smarter choices, they're leading themselves. So take this serious. You've already done the hard part. You've shown up. You've tried. You've pushed through. Now take the final step. Close your week with clarity. Look at what needs adjusting, and adjust it. Don't carry the same issues into the next week. Leave them behind by choosing better. This is how you build a powerful year, not with giant leaps, but with weekly realignment, quiet reflection, smart decisions, clear changes, 1 week at a time. That's the rhythm of someone who doesn't just hope life will improve, but takes ownership of their path. That person